And thank you for having me. And good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our session. So today we'll be looking at assessment, primarily looking at peer assessment features or tools rather, that we can use within our LMS. And just I haven't shared a screen yet, but just with the show of hands, how many of us have actually encountered having to interact from a student point of view and also from from a lecture point of view, where we have actually had to use peer assessments within the online spaces, just so that I can get a sense of how many of us have actually tried to. Okay, so far one. And then from our students, two. Okay, cool. Great. I am going to share my screen, and I must just make sure that I'm actually sharing the correct one. So I'm using two screens for the session. And while I'm sharing my screen, I won't be able to view the chats. So should there be any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions, and then I will pause and then be able to respond to your questions. And just to make sure that I'm sharing the right screen, can everyone see where I currently am? The bottom page is titled Peer Review Assessment. Is that what everyone is viewing on their side?
I see that.
Oh, perfect. Great. So in this instance, we are focusing on peer review assessment. So let's just say, you know what, you have actually started building your modules and you have all the necessary needed pages, and now you've just started building the type of assessments that you want your students to interact with. You know, it could be discussion groups, it could be quizzes, or it could be an assignment that you are going to mark, but also it could be an assignment that you actually want your students to be able to review and then give feedback to their fellow classmates. So I'm just going to switch off my camera so that we can focus on one thing at a time. So now you're going to go to the course within the LMS that you will be using. And then I've just added this module, for instance. But let's say, for instance, my course module, I'm just going to say peer review examples. I'm just gonna add that, and then I'm just gonna publish it for now. And then I'm going to now build a feature or add a page or a tool for the assignment. But for the purpose of this, I'm going to start with a discussion. So already within my page, there are other discussions that have already been built, such as introduce yourself, question and answers, online communities. So I'm going to create a new topic, and I'm going to call it peer review discussion. And then for this specific discussion, I want it to be graded. So from our side, what we usually do is just to put in brackets that this discussion will be graded. And then I can now save. And then when I go in, the first thing I'm going to see is this page. And then I just press edit. It has no information at the moment. And I have now prepared. So all my plannings are currently on a Word doc. So what I'm going to do is just copy all this information and then go back to the LMS and then paste it in. And then I can also just reformat certain areas as I go by. And then I can save it without actually exploring more of these options. So I can just save our discussion group and then publish it while I'm still in teachers or teachers mode. And if I were to go into student view, this is pretty much what students will be able to see, and they can post whatever that they were instructed to post. So in this instance, our discussion has two parts. And that is also a crucial aspect of building our interactions with our students online. And there's multiple ways to start pulling them in, or rather drawing them in. So we can have a discussion and then ask them a question. But if our question just requires them, for instance, just to say yes or no, then that kind of defeats the purpose of having that discussion group, unless our sole purpose is for us to just get a response in forms in manners of just saying yes or no. But through the methods of us having to write instructions, we can start pulling them in. For instance, these examples was taken from one of the courses, and it has two parts. So it has part 1 and part 2, and by part 1, they're supposed to review a video from the previous week, and then from there on, they are given more instructions in terms of how they should actually handle or engage with our part 1 of this discussion group. And then they are also told to upload their completed tasks. So this task can be in a form of a Word document or in a form of a video as well. And then by part 2, which is a continuation from part 1. They're supposed to, once they've submitted, they have until over the weekend to return back to this activity, and they will automatically be assigned to 2 of their peer submissions, and they must critically review those peer submissions using the rubric below. And yeah, and then they're also given an instruction that this task must be submitted by Sunday. So I've just pretty much copied and pasted from the Word document that I was working with or working on, and I will have, as a student, I will have access to the 3 dots up there. And then at the moment, it just, when I click on those 3 dots, it just says mark all as read. So already within this example, the students don't have access to the rubric. So I'm going to leave our student mode and then go back to our editing mode. And then if I were to scroll down, I can see pretty much everything I can write. I mean, I can post in the chat, but I'm going to just select the option that allows us to edit this page. And just directly underneath, we now have all these options. So these options are also key and very crucial in terms of how we can start to influence how our students should be interacting with our discussion group. For instance, we can select to allow threaded replies. So if we don't, if this is unselected, then they won't have that option to for the threaded replies to be utilized. And then there is also the option that gives us the option to allow our students to post before seeing replies. So if this is not ticked, or rather selected, then our students will automatically be able to view what their fellow peers have already posted without that specific actual student having to post. But in this instance, I actually want them to post before they can see what their peers have posted.
Motlatu, sorry to interrupt. Just the threaded replies, what does that mean? I know I might be blonde.
No, it's fine. So if I were to let's say save it, and then I'm just gonna paste, then I'm just gonna say hi everyone, and then also I should be in student mode. And I just wanna, it's often best to, let's just say hi everyone, and then I can post, and then somebody else can then come again and say hi. So already. So the way it is done, it's so the posts are currently viewed as separate. But let me just go back there and select the threaded replies and then save my changes and then go back to my student view. Sorry, there will also be a lot of going back to the student view. Now, the moment I have selected that option, I can now respond to the first post. So it allows me now, if I were to say, hi, Mutacho, and then post it. Now, okay, it's actually viewing a little bit funny, but it pretty much allows me to respond to that specific student. Then another student can now post back under what was said, and then it will create this set, similarly to how it would with, for instance, a tweet or a Facebook post.
Thank you. Now I understand the difference between the two.
Pleasure. And it's also a nice feature to have, because then, you know, if I were to go here, well, as the actual student, I could let me just go back. So I could actually see like how many students responded to that specific one, and it makes it easier for me to also track everything. So let me just do this. So this option, the HJ one, there is no threaded replies to it, hence it stands on its own. But the moment I go here, the moment the peer said hi everyone, I can see everybody who now responds back to that student. That's a very strange okay. But yeah, so that's what that threaded reply feature comes in handy. And then I'm going back to so the other features that we could do here, remember in the beginning I had said that our discussion is graded. So if I want it to be graded, I can select the option for it to be graded, and then immediately when I select that option, I have the option to select if this is a group discussion. So now if it's a group discussion, and I have the option to select a specific group allocation within the actual discussions, but I'm going to untick that. And then I also have an option where our peers can like each other's post. So if I don't select this option, then our students are not going to be able to actually like, but they will still have the threaded option where they can type. But in this instance, they will have both options. And under that option of liking, our there's an option for our graders to like, or I can just, if I were to select this, then that just means that those are grading can like post, but we generally just prefer to just allow liking so that everyone can like all their fellow peers posts. And then we will have this option for points. I'm just going to say 30, okay, 40. And then there is now this option for peer reviews. So let's say in this instance, I don't want to utilize the peer review feature. I can just save all the options that I have ticked. And then immediately when I do that, now this time, let me just go to student view. If I were to go, it still shows that. So let me just go back quickly. Under the edit option, since it's a graded assignment, a graded discussion, I should allow our students to have access to the rubric. So normally or usually how that works is that most lecturers just prefer to utilize the table form of rubrics. Let me just do that. So usually they will have something like this and say criteria, criteria. Oh, my spelling today. It's just, I haven't had coffee today. Excuse me for a moment. Okay, I need help spelling criteria. My brain, my sense of spelling today is just completely off.
CRITERIA.
IA. Okay, cool. So they will have the criteria, and then they will have the text for the criteria, and then they will have the rating, and they usually put it in a table form. So you could do that in a table form. Then I'm just gonna, let me go back, copy that and insert table. Okay, let's just say they do that. And then just wanna do that. And then let's say the rating. Then we can save this. So then, I mean, in this instance, obviously the lecturers will have more details, but there is a much better way to utilize the rubric feature. So if I were to go up while still in editing mode, I click on the three dots. I have the option to add a rubric or create a rubric. In this instance, I'm going to utilize the previously used rubrics. So let's just say I were to, for instance, utilize this one. I just select it. Then now my rubric is embedded. So now when our students are in student view, now they go to select the three dots on the far right, the top right, they will be able to view the rubric in terms of how they are going to be assessed, or in terms of how they should be assessing or assigning a rating to their fellow classmates. So at the moment, our instructions end only at part 2. Now, our form of peer reviews is that they're supposed to view their fellow classmates post and then offer a critical review based on their peers' submissions using the below rubric. And now we have ensured that our students have that rubric, but we can also take this a step further. In this instance, we can, so I'm just going to remove this table. I actually don't like to use embedded tables like that. So we can say part 3 of this activity, and then I'm just going to clear format. And if there are also any questions in the chat, please, can somebody just read them for me? Then we can just wanna.
Hi, Mutajo.
Hi.
It's Pearl here. Dr. Hall said peer review of someone else's answer. This may be considered, okay, this may be considered by the students as a way for the lecturers to do less work with 3 question marks. Probably not true, but is often seen as that by students. So that's Dr. Hall. And then
Yeah.
Zal has responded to that to say we use it as formative and a learning opportunity by giving different topics so everyone has a chance to learn about all the topics.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, just give me a second. You are going to use let's just say rating to your peers. Okay, I'm just gonna save this. I will get back to the, I'm actually just gonna try and go back to the chat so that I, okay. Oh, okay. Okay, so so other nice feature about peer reviews is that students can review their peers' work. However, at the end of the day, the lecturer still has to go back and view the conversations and also what the student had said, and the lecturer will still have the option to assign the final grade. So let's say in this instance, our part 3 is that they are required to use the rubric and allocate a rating to their peers. So the other way that they can rate their colleagues is, or their peers in this instance, is to respond to the specific peers post and then give them a rating. So now the moment we do that, you know, a lot of students might be hesitant to do that because then they're like, oh no, so and so is my friend, so you know they might not feel confident enough, or they might not want to be exposed. So then in that instance, just want to double check actually this, but I will show you how that option can be explored with the assignment feature, where they can post anonymously. And just again to get back to your question, so now let's say our students have actually posted so they have posted their post, they've given each other feedback. As the lecturer, you can go back to the 3 dots again. You will be able to view the rubric. Then you also have this option to view peer reviews. So I've set mine to automatically assign, but unfortunately I don't have anyone on this course that access it as a student. But I'm gonna go back to that again, and then there's this option for the speed grader. So I can select any of the students that have posted, and then so let's just do this, go all the way back. So in this instance, I can see that there's been 7 submissions. So if I were to go there, I can see all the other participants' responses, and I can still view the rubric here and assign a percentage. So let's say, let me just go back one. Sorry, I'm going to redo this. Go back there. So let's say this is our student, and I'm just gonna drag this way. So let's say one of the peers had said no, the student should be given only, or the rating that they recommend is 50 out of 100. As the lecturer, you will have the option to view what that other student had said. Then you also have, so this student, for example, was rated 2 out of 2, but you have that option to still say, you know what, it's actually it's not fair that the student should get 2, maybe they should get 4, or maybe they should get 0. Then you have that option to just adjust all the rating, and you can also leave the comment, then save, and then submit. So that is one way that the LMS does allow us to do away with that students thinks that lecturers are just looking for an easier way out, because at the end of the day, you know, you still need to go and assign the final rating or approve it. Does that answer the question?
Can I ask a question? Does the assessing student get marked for assessment?
The assessing students, no. So they don't get marked for the assessment. However, what you could do, you within the rubric itself, you can allocate a different rating to give that students a different mark, or you can then create a new submission where you, for instance, you can ask all the students to screen shot all their interactions with students. So let me actually just, I'm just trying to find, I have way too many courses. I'm just trying to find that page that I was editing with. So in that instance where you actually want to give them a mark, what I would advise you do is that you create a new assignment, and then it could be like peer review. I'm just gonna say individual mark, or let's just say participation mark. Participation mark. Then you can create this assignment solely to rate the students who have given reviews. Does that make sense?
That sounds better. Otherwise, they're working for no feedback from it. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean the other way is also to set one assignment for participation where they can actually show evidence. I mean, of course, you know what, there will already be evidence that they have been engaging with the discussion. But then that will also assist you as the lecturer not to always go back to the discussion, whereas you actually give them a different task where you're like, go back, show records of how you had actually engaged with the discussion. Then you mark them or give them a mark based on that. Then I'm going to look at a different option, which is a peer review assignment. So the previous one was graded discussions. So this one is more of where they have to submit, and the way that this feature, I mean, this one is featured is that they will not be able to view other peers' submissions. However, so for instance, if I were to go to, so this tool is used the way that you would normally set it up with any assignment tools that comes directly to the lecturers only. However, so we have, for instance, this feature here. I'm just gonna unselect everything here. So we have the submission type. And then you can select if you have the options to say no submission, but I wouldn't advise the no submission. Then you have the online, then you have the on paper, then the external tool. So the best option in this instance, since the course is online, is to, of course, choose the online option. But if you want them to submit on paper, let's say you are doing a blended module, and then it offers you the option to actually interact with them face to face, then you can say for this specific assignment you want them to submit it on paper. But for the purpose of our session, I'm selecting the online option. Then there's this option, text entry. Do I want them to just copy and paste, or do I want them to send a website URL? Let's say their task was to create a free website, and then they will be assessed on that. Then I can select that option. Then we also have the option for media recordings. Do I want them to send a recording of themselves and so forth? Or do I want them to annotate something? Or do I want them to submit a file upload? So file uploads, we also have the option to restrict file types. So on my side, I've restricted it that it can only be a Word document, it can be a PowerPoint, it can be a PDF. But if you don't want them to submit PowerPoints or PDFs, you have the option actually not to put that. So if I were to delete the PowerPoint, for instance, then they will only be able to submit the other forms of file types, excluding PowerPoint. So in this instance, it will just be a Word document and a PDF. And then I can set the number of attempts they have. I can also decide if I want the option that we can use Turnitin, which is crucial for plagiarism. And then right underneath, so this side, right underneath, we have the peer review option. So if, for instance, this is one assignment where actually I want the students to peer review each other's work, I select it, then there's an option to manually assign. So if you select the manually assigned, you will have to later come on back to this page and then individually assign students. However, I recommend that you use the automatically assign. And at the moment, so you can decide that, you can set it up.
Sorry, before you go on, when you choose the automatically assigned peer reviews and somebody is asking for an extension and hasn't submitted by the due date, how does that impact the automatically assign?
So that specific student was now late from submitting.
Yes.
Okay, so in that instance, right underneath, we have this option to assign to everyone. But since one specific student has missed the deadline, I can then just, instead of saying assign to everyone, I can just select my student and then give them a new due date underneath.
Oh, okay. Thank you. That makes sense. Thank you.
Then I will, I'll just give them a new due date so that they have a longer time. But in that instance, if so let's say I've been saying, here, reviews per user is only 1, and I got 4 students, okay, no, 5 students, the other 4 have already been assigned, then I might actually have to manually assign them or change this option from reviews per user to 2, then that way they will automatically be assigned into a different fellow peer to review the work. And there is also another option here that I said I will address. Just give me a second to find it so this option, there was a question also that was raised when I was doing the discussion where I said that student might also feel the pressure that they don't want to give like an authentic peer review, because then their students are going to, their peers are going to be aware of that who posted. So you can select this option to say peer reviews appear anonymously. So our students will be able to view that their work has been peer reviewed, but they will not be able to identify which student offered the peer reviews to their work. However, as the lecturer, you will be able to see which student peer reviewed which work. Then in that instance, I will save this. And again, by the 3 dots, okay. So on here, I've actually, let me just go to student view. So this is what students will be able to view. So as you can see, the rubric here comes, it views different from the group discussion. And that is just the differences that the LMS shows how rubrics can be viewed. And let me go back to teacher mode. I have this option on top to download all the submissions that our students have submitted, and I also have the option to peer review, to the peer reviews. So as I said earlier on, that these are actually staff members and they are not added to the course as students, but in this instance, if they were students, they would be automatically assigned to our courses. They will be automatically assigned to peer reviews. And then there's this option for the speed grader as well. So this is where, again, I will be able to view what the student had submitted. And in an event where we have actual students, I'll be able to see their comments and so forth. Then I also have the option to assign a final grade to that specific student's work. Do we have questions for that? So I could pretty much say, okay, the final assignment could be 35, and I could just say, well done. However, more could be done in responding to the concept covered. And then just underneath, we can attach as well. We can also send a voice note or a video. A voice note or a video. Then we can just submit to our student, and then the assignment would be submitted to them. And okay, let me just go back here. So now that I have done all that, and of course with assignments also, you can mark them offline. However, I do recommend that you do utilize the LMS. However, often there is that option where you actually just want to download everything, and you will then just download the assignments and then mark it, then later on import it. However, the nice thing about marking it online, let's say I had used SpeedGrader, and I had just given my student feedback, and I was like, they should get 34. And now if I were to go to my course and I go to grades, it will automatically keep records of all the markings. So there's my 38, for instance, and this makes it easier as well, because if you were to mark it outside of the LMS, you will then have to capture the percentages later. Do we have any more questions? Okay. So in a nutshell, that is everything from my side. Unless there's anyone who has a specific question or advice on handling any of the assessment tools that they have used before.
Matlacha, I know I'm going to put you on the spot, but maybe if you can show us some of the quiz options that are available on Ulwazi.
Yeah. Yeah. No. That's thanks for that. I am more than happy. So I'm gonna go back to my course shell. I'm gonna go back to my module. So now I want to actually build a quiz. So I'm going to add a quiz. Let's just say I'm going to say week. Just gonna say quiz sample. So with the quizzes, there's actually a few ways, few options that are available for us to utilize. So at the moment, I've just gone to the actual models page and I'm going to create it from there, but you can also create it from the menu panel on the left side. So in this instance, I'm going to now open my quiz page and then go. So this will be the instructions for the following quizzes. So then I can write my, so I'm just going to say 1, 2, and I'm going to make this into a list. Okay, space, and I'm just going to make this into a list. Okay. Now I have these options for questions, so I'm just gonna say, for instance, question 1, and next to that there is this arrow which gives me options of the type of question I want. So I could say, let's say it's true and false. So I could say, for instance, is it cold today? And then I can set true or false. Okay, I just realized that will keep changing. So maybe the right questions, I could say cats are better than dogs. then I'm like, cool, it's true. Then I can set that as the correct answer. And I can just update. Then I can add another question, for instance, question 2. Then there's an option to choose a multiple drop down or a matching. So the commonly used ones are true and false, multiple answers, the multiple drop, and the matching ones. So I'm just gonna select the multiple choice and say select the correct answers from the options below. So with the multiple answers one, it allows and gives me an option to create a quiz where there can be true correct answers or more than 2. So if all the answers are correct, I can keep adding and then selecting all the correct answers. So that's one way. It's also great when we have a question that has 5 answers, but only, for instance, 3 are the correct ones out of that 5. And the other tool that we can utilize besides the multiple answers and true and false is the matching one. So match column A with the correct response in column B.
Motlatsho, Matty has got a question. I'm going to ask her to unmute and just ask the question.
Perfect. Thanks, Lizzie.
Yeah, so I just wanted to know whether it's possible to, for example, prepare your question, your MCQ test in a different format, like in a Word document or something, and then import that document into Ulwazi without having to type every single question into Ulwazi.
Oh, okay. So you can't import it. However, you can copy and paste. So let's say, you know,
Okay.
I've planned all my.
No, I understand that, but yeah, Moodle actually allows for us to be able to import an entire test into it.
No.
So I was wondering whether Ulwazi has the same function.
No, but I will do a little bit of more research on that. But yeah, at the moment, no. We just copy and paste. And I also assume that Moodle's content might not be imported directly into Ulwazi. But I haven't.
No, no, it can't. Yeah, that's there's still some concerns about all kinds of functionalities and whatever.
Yeah. So the best way is always to plan everything and then copy it from Word doc to the LMS. Okay, so I'm going to preview the type of quizzes that were created. So our question 1 in student view. So they will immediately when they land in, go to that specific page, they have the option to start the quiz, and then they can select the. Then this is how the matching one will show on their side, and then they can submit the quiz. And while we are here, there is also another. There's these settings that are actually quite useful. So we have the options to shuffle answers. So let's say I don't want them to go from question 1 to question 10, but I just want the questions to, or the answers to be shuffled as well. Then I can select this, then randomly the questions will pop up. Then there's also an option for time limit. So you could set the time that you want your students to be given in order for them to complete the assignment. And also you can select that you want your students to view incorrect answers only after they've taken part or after they've submitted the quiz, or you can not set that up, then you can save. And yeah, at the moment, it will they will be able to view all the questions at once. But what's quite a nice thing to also set is to allow only the LMS to show one question at a time. And the nice thing about giving them that option is that if your question is quite wordy or there's just too much text there, it's better that they focus on one, but also for students who might be using or rather accessing your course on mobile devices, it does help them because then they can only view one question at a time. Do we have more questions?
We'll have to learn more about the QTI format because that's Greek to me.
Oh yeah, thanks for posting that. That is worth exploring as well.
Anybody?
Also, just with that, if content was exported from, let's say, Ulwazi to study online version of the Canvas, they're both different versions, so then they wouldn't work as well. So I can't, for instance, I can't use our version of Ulwazi's content and then bring it into our study online one because it's not fully compatible yet. But I do know that that's something that's currently being looked into as well.
Thank you, Motlatjo. Is there anybody that has got a comment, a question, even on your own courses on Ulwazi, if there's some changes or assistance that you want? I know some of us are using Moodle, but there are people that are using Ulwazi. Any questions for Motlatjo? Seems like everybody's blown away.
I have a question for the lecturer that had asked about Moodle, because I actually haven't used it before. So I just want to know if they've actually tried to export content from that site before.
Matty, I think that's directed to you.
Yeah, that would be me. So we've actually elected to stay on Moodle for the time being. So
Yeah.
we haven't done that. But if I look at what Arshad has posted, if I look at that link of his, it means that I can export my Moodle quiz as a QTI package and then import my QTI package into Ulwazi. So actually, for people who have moved from Moodle to Ulwazi, it wouldn't be necessary to redo everything because that's the painful exercises to retype everything, and even copying and pasting is a pain because depending on how Ulwazi works, you have to type every answer into a separate block if you have MCQs. So so that would definitely make life a lot easier if it's possible to import QTI packages. And even if you didn't create it in Moodle, you can then create it in one of the other formats that that link that Arshad posted pastes. So I don't know, Motlatjo, whether that answers your question.
Yes, it does, because I'm also very curious about that, because previously we were using the edX platform and we had to now recreate the content in
a lot of content, yeah,
because also edX had different features from from Ulwazi as well. So there had to be quite a lot of adjustment as well, and quite a lot of LMS are not necessarily compatible, but I am, please just let us know how that goes. It will be, yeah, and I will also try and give it a try on my side as well, and hopefully it works.
Yeah, that would be actually a very interesting exercise.
Exactly, and thank you for for raising that. So I have a new task on my hand.
Any
Yeah, I
other?
think we need to work smarter and not harder.
That
Sorry,
is so,
go
no,
on.
no, that is so true, because I think that is the biggest stumbling block is when you've got something in one format, you are dreading to move it from one place to another because of you don't know how much retyping is needed. But that's good to know that there are people like Ashad and Motlacho and CLTD and other people that can support us and guide us in moving things. We must just ask the questions. So thank you for raising that. Any other questions and comments for Motlacho while we've got 4 more minutes to go? If not, then Motlacho, I'm saying thank you so much on behalf of the whole team and all the people that have joined today. I've learned something today because I haven't really worked on Ulwazi. It's very, very limited to what I've done. So I will definitely explore a bit more on the quizzes and the assignments and see if we can't get some more interactive work-going engagement between the students. And even on the clinical platform, that might be a way of having case discussions moving forward. So we can start thinking of how we can use the LMS to create engagement, even from the clinical side on Ulwazi. So with that note, a last word from you, Motlacho?
I just want to say thank you to everyone, and also Ashad just said that it works, but there's still adjustments you'll have to make. Okay. Yeah, thank you for everyone for joining our session, and I hope that the session was meaningful and you can explore more of the assessment tools. And should you have any questions later on or need assistance, please feel free to drop any of us an email.
Thank you so much. And then everybody have a good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining. Really appreciate your time, and stay warm. Have a good afternoon, everybody.
Thank you.